Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with a Journalist, brought to you by One Pitch. The guests on our show include some of the most notable journalists from the top US-based publications who cover topics including technology, lifestyle and culture, health, science, and consumer products. We discuss their role, the types of stories they cover, what their inbox looks like, and how they connect with sources. Today we're joined by Sissi Cao, a business and tech reporter for Observer. She joined the team in October of 2017 and covers major news and updates surrounding power players including Tesla, SpaceX, Toyota, Amazon, and Uber. She's also worked for Trusted Insight as a finance editor and for Capital News Service as a business reporter and web designer. Sissi talks about one of the most interesting cold pitches she received on the show today, the Slack channel her team uses for PR pitches, the similarities between Silicon Valley and the journalism industry, and more. Let's hear more from Sissi on the episode today.
Welcome, everybody. This is Coffee with the Journalist. I'm Beck Bamberger, and we're now season 2, as we've talked about, now 50 plus episodes in. Super exciting. Today we have on Sissi Cao from The Observer, and I'm so glad to welcome you here, Sissi.
Hi, Beck. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and you're drinking coffee, actually. It's a rare occurrence on this podcast, interestingly enough. And what's your favorite type of coffee, by the way? Are you just like black coffee, or you put a bunch of stuff in, or how does it work for you?
I like milky ones. I recently got a Nespresso machine.
Nice.
During the lockdown, because
you got to keep your supply.
There's no more Starbucks.
Yep, you got to do what you got to do. I wonder how their sales have been.
I bet really good.
Yeah, I would imagine. Everyone's like, shoot, got to make my own coffee. Well, I'm not drinking coffee, but I have my sparkling water here, so we are good. First, I'd like to ask you, Sissi, just about your inbox. How crazy is it in there? How do you keep it under control with pitches?
So my inbox, every morning I wake up to probably more than 100, 150 new emails from everyone. Most of them are, they include PR pitches, some alerts, some just regular newsletters, and just office emails from my coworkers and sources I've been in touch with. And there's also some submissions from people I don't know. They want to write for us.
Oh, you get those?
Yeah, I get those too. I guess, Observer has a pretty small editorial team. So everybody, even though I'm not the editor who manages these things, but people somehow find my email and send those my way.
So then you just forward those along, or what do you do to organize those 100 plus emails that come to you?
I try to carve out maybe 15 minutes every 2 hours throughout the day just to clear at least the first page of my inbox. So delete those things I don't have to open and see if there's anything being flagged or starred that I need to look right away. For those submissions, I tend to take a quick glance at it, and then if it's something, I'll forward to my coworker. But if not, sometimes I reply to them. Sometimes I don't have time to do that, to be very honest. So yes, that's kind of my system. But sometimes that's not enough. So I would spend some time Sunday evening to go through my inbox so that I can start fresh on Monday.
Yeah.
Or maybe Wednesday night, once or twice a week, I need to spare some time.
And do you read every pitch?
It depends. If the subject line is something related to my beat, I would open it and see what's in that. Sometimes it's just clearly irrelevant, so I'd skip those. We actually, on our company Slack, we have a channel called Worst PR Pitches.
Oh, no. Can you share, do you know one of those just off the top of your head, like a bad subject line? Even one that you've seen?
Yeah, sure. I think early in the pandemic, one of my coworkers, he writes about entertainment, and he got this pitch about how porn downloads have skyrocketed across the US. I mean, it's a real story, but it's not what we usually cover. And the pitch was not edited in a very proper way, so that's what kind of made it stand out. But it's just one example.
Gosh. Yes, just for those who are familiar, for like your section, you have books and theater and arts of all sorts, and I that's not in the realm of arts there, so totally makes sense.
Yeah, and there are more crazy stuff. I can't
Oh, I'm
think
sure.
of more on top of my mind, but it's something we can follow up at a later time.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you have a Slack channel about it, I think, is enough evidence that there's clearly a supply of those for you guys to share. That's enough. Okay. Well, speaking of stories, though, and where they can come up and evolve, keeping in mind, of course, Sissy, that you were writing in the tech vertical and you do speak about or talk about some of the biggest tech companies there are, from the SpaceXs to the Amazons and so forth. Do you ever get stories published that originate from a pitch?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tell us about that.
Yeah, about a pitch. Let's see. You were talking about like less household names.
Yes, maybe some, startups. Mhm.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, I got a pitch from a PR that I had no contact with. It was a first time outreach. She pitched me this very interesting idea of a startup in Michigan that's working on a technology that freezes your stem cells. So for example, if you're like 50 and you're worried that your knee is gonna fall apart in 10 years, you can extract some stem cells from that part and freeze that with the company, and they charge you a fee. It's kind of similar to like egg freezing service, but the technology is less mature in that specific area of science. So they are kind of pioneering that, and just started offering those services around the country. I was heading to a tech event. I believe it was TechCrunch Disrupt in September, and the founder would be there. So we just kind of arranged an in-person interview in San Francisco, and we chatted about like what technology is, how it works, and some ethical questions like if you have like a 50-year-old knee in this fridge for 10 years and you get it back, you get a new knee when you turn 60. How old are you exactly? What if it's not a knee? It's like a more essential organ or something else. So there's a lot of interesting questions.
Yeah, I've never thought of that in terms of, especially in a future setting where lots of body parts can be interchanged, like a car. How old is it?
Exactly. That's a question that comes up a lot in these biotech companies, especially those with a very clear consumer angle. Yeah, so I ended up doing a feature of that company, and that actually did really well on our site. Yeah, that's just one example.
That's a great example, though. That not only got a story out of that, but you actually got to meet in person and you got to actually see the founder and all those great things. So there you go.
Yeah, I try to meet the person I interview as much as I can because we are in New York. A lot of things are happening in this area. So I do my best to make in-person interviews happen. Yeah, but not this year, obviously.
Yes. Oh, I'm looking forward to the return of that time. That'll be fun. Where like you could do an interview in a bar like it and have like a drink. Oh my gosh. It sounds so fantasy level at this point. It'll be back. And I kind of predict that it'll be like a roaring 20s comeback where people are going to be crazy in fashion, in gluttony. Probably it's going to be a raging economy. Anyway, we digress. We digress. That was a good answer, Sissy. Thanks for sending that. But, that can kind of walk us into this next part, which is word associations, which I do love.
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to see the unique ways OnePitch helps PR professionals and marketers pitch journalists? Head to onepitch.co to learn about our new OnePitch score and see how easy it is to find the right journalist to pitch your news to. Sign up for your free account today. Now, back to today's episode.
Yes, so I'm going to give you a word and then tell us the first thing that comes to mind. Does that sound good?
Okay.
First one is food.
Noodle.
Drink.
Coffee.
Hobby.
Painting.
Finance.
Tesla stock.
Oh, the next thing is Tesla.
Cybertruck.
Oh, I saw your article on that. Yeah. Airbnb,
Vacation.
space travel,
Virgin Galactic.
Amazon,
Prime.
Shanghai.
Home.
2021, which is when this will be debuting, although we are taping it in 2020, late 2020.
Travel.
Sounds glorious. Journalism,
Writing at night.
pitch,
Gmail.
inbox,
Mess.
mess. Yes. Although it sounds like you have a pretty good wrangle around it.
Yeah, well,
Given your and do you, it sounds like, not to go back into that part, but are you an inbox zero person? Do you get it down to zero?
no, I try to keep it under 10,000. Well, I've been with the company for a long time. I have accumulated a lot of junk in there.
Wow. I get to zero unread, but in terms of the number in there, there's probably like 50 something thousand, something crazy. It just sits there. It can search all that. No problem. Okay. Sissi, I know you're spending a lot of time reading that inbox, but is there anything else we love to ask our journalists that you are reading, enjoying, listening to, anything like that you'd recommend? I get all my recommendations from this show, by the way.
Like I mentioned early on, I'm not a big podcast person, but I do listen to episodes that, my friends and colleagues recommended to me. I listen to the long form podcast. They sometimes have these really in-depth, great interviews with reporters talking about long form stories. Lately, I've been reading a book called Trick Mirror. It's by the New Yorker writer Gia Tolentino. It's a collection of essays. She's written on cultural topics, from social media, feminism, celebrities.
That's a good one. Good. Oh, I like the cover art of it too. It's kind of a cool retro piece.
Yeah, she has a very smart voice on a lot of these very complex issues in our society. And I read her stuff in the New Yorker magazine regularly. So I think that the book came out last year, and it just it had some of her older work and some newer ones, but it's definitely worth checking out.
Mm-hmm. It's Trick Mirror, Reflections on Self-Delusion. It does say, from the New Yorker's beloved cultural critic comes a bold, unflinching collection of essays about self-deception, examining everything from scammer culture to reality television.
Yeah, it really changes how next time you open your Instagram and see your friends post and how you feel about, getting how many likes and shares and everything like that.
Oh, that's a perfect holiday book to set yourself up for success, I feel. Sissi, what do you think is the future of journalism?
Yeah, that's a tricky question because that seems to be the question we're trying to answer collectively in this profession every day. I feel like, on a more practical note, I feel like the future of journalism might be increasingly consolidated, as what we are seeing with tech consolidation in Silicon Valley. Smaller startups getting absorbed by bigger brands, eventually become a big newsroom that has everybody from different parts of the media ecosystem. I think the format is also something I think a lot about. So there's podcast seems to be a very recent thing that it just started taking off a few years ago to replace videos and web stories. So I kind of look forward to seeing what's going to happen there, in either podcast or more multi-platform storytelling techniques. I don't have an exact answer just yet.
Me neither. And it seems like, God, there's just more content of the same content, but then packaged this way, in this format, in this thing. And you're like, oh my God, I am in a crisis of content personally.
Exactly. I remember when I was in grad school that was 2014, we had this new class, or they even developed a track for creating interactive web stories. These really fancy, like New York Times visualization of how a storm passes and what's the impact on New York and Boston and so on. So it's kind of a new type of storytelling based on top of data. So some people call it data journalism. Some people call it interactive storytelling. So a lot of journalists nowadays actually need to take coding classes in college to at least understand the basics of it, even though you're not like creating those pages yourself. That's also going to be one of part of the future when writers get more technical and just get more comfortable with computers. Because having working this industry, I know a lot of writers still have this very old school mindset that I'm not good with computers or math. I just write good stories. But maybe one day this is not enough.
Yeah, I would say increasingly it's not, especially if you're going to be covering like enterprise, big companies, stock portfolio news, things like that. I mean, you have that finance background then coupled with the journalism background, which is so, I imagine, pragmatic in so many ways. I haven't heard too many people talk about more what you're alluding to, which is this hybrid of skills and that what you need to bring more to the table. You need to be better than just, oh, I can tell a story or I can make it succinct and understandable and alluring, but also I can interpret multiple ways of a story from like a data perspective, from a stock analysis, from an IPO synopsis, from all these other ways that you could do it from a visual standpoint. Just wow. It's becoming more demanding on journalists, I believe.
Yeah, because everybody is a journalist with the tools they have.
It's so true. I like your analysis on that, Sissi. Well, let's play this last part, which is just a fun Mad Lib, which sometimes is shockingly accurate. So let's see. So I will give you the word needed, and then I will fill in your answer, and then I will read you back the whole thing. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. First, do you have a catchphrase such as like, just do it? That's Nike's.
No worries.
What is a scare phrase that you hear being a journalist?
Okay. As soon as possible.
Then what about something that's the opposite of that, like super positive or empowering that you would hear?
I'd say when a reader like commented or a colleague said, I learned a lot.
Oh, I learned a lot. Yes, that's positive indeed. Okay, now these are easier. Next ones. What about a adjective? Any adjective?
Adjective, calm.
Okay, calm. Great. What about a part of a pitch? Any part of a pitch?
Subject line.
Subject line. Okay. What is another adjective?
Chaotic.
Oh, that's a good one. What about another part of a pitch?
Media assets.
Media assets. That's a good one. Okay. What is an amount of time?
1 hour.
1 hour. Okay. And then another adjective.
Minimalistic.
Minimalistic. Great. How about a noun?
Dog.
Dog. Great. And then a topic. And then we're almost done.
Topic. Healthcare.
Okay. And then a verb that ends in ing.
Supporting.
Oh, that's a good one. And then how about just any verb?
Dump.
Dump. Now I'm going to read back the Mad Lib.
Oh my God.
Here we go. To me, tech journalism is no worries. It consists of as soon as possibles and reader comments such as, I learned a lot on the daily. If a pitch is a calm subject line, I will absolutely respond to it. However, if a pitch has a chaotic media assets folder, you can expect no reply from me. If 1 hour goes by and you don't see an email back from me, you can just assume I am not minimalistic about it. The best stories always have a dog and are usually about healthcare. And the best way to reach me is by supporting me, but you can also dump it to me.
Wow, that's incredibly accurate.
Aren't these? They sometimes are these, and I just love it.
It's like what's in my subconscious.
Well, Sissi, thank you for your time today. Thank you for the delight and your poetic ways of thinking about the future of journalism. I really enjoyed having you on today.
That's so great. I really had a lot of fun.
This was fun.
Yeah, thank you, Beck.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Coffee with the Journalist featuring Sissi Cao from Observer. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, please leave us a review to share your thoughts about the show and today's guest. To learn more about the latest tools on OnePitch, head to our website at onepitch.co. We'll see you next week with an all-new guest and even more insights about the journalists you want to learn more about. Until then, start great stories.